If I can kick off with a question, the Health and Harmony consultation paper, wonderfully named Health and Harmony consultation paper that will lead into the agricultural bill, has come up for a little bit of flack, and particularly your written evidence, Dr. Dobson, Dr. Gravey, has been somewhat critical of the fact that it is a bit England-centric. That perhaps it doesn't speak too much to the Northern Ireland element of Brexit so far as it relates to agriculture. I wonder if you could expand a little bit on that and tell us what your concerns are, since clearly this is going to be an influential piece of work that will feed into legislation, and particularly given the fact that we don't have an executive at the moment. It is incumbent upon UK government to ensure that the Northern Ireland element of this, given the uniqueness of agriculture within Northern Ireland, is properly reflected.
Okay, so Health and Harmony is supposed to be about England. So in a way, it's not a problem that DEFRA, who's supposed to be putting policy for England, thinks of England when it puts policy. The problem is if then that is the basis for common frameworks, if that becomes extended upon the whole of the UK, kind of becoming common by default. So the fact that it's thinking of England is a good thing. The problem, and if we just end up copy-pasting it for Northern Ireland, there's lots of different issues. The starting point is that what we have right now is divergence. The Common Agricultural Policy is very flexible. It has to be because it covers 28 countries with completely different farming system. And so there's lots of options, and the four nations of the UK have picked lots of these different options. And I'm sure Wesley will be able to talk more about this, but for example, we have levels of direct payments that are capped in Northern Ireland, and they're not capped in England. You have very different amount of agri-environmental payments. So in England, you have 75% of rural development money that goes to agri-environmental payments in Northern Ireland, and the rest of the UK is much lower. So it's a different situation. And that has some very concerning, perhaps, elements when it comes to Health and Harmony, because we're talking about the plan is to cap payments to free some money to be able to fund that agricultural transition. But payments are already capped in Northern Ireland, so they're capped at 150,000 euros. So you free up a lot of extra money in England to fund that transition, you won't be able to free up that extra money in Northern Ireland. So you need to get that money for transition elsewhere. There's also concerns, as Wesley pointed out, in terms of the reliance of the agricultural sector in Northern Ireland on CAP funding. Now, so Viviane Petittin, who's an agricultural law lecturer in Cardiff, has calculated that the DEFRA proposal as it stands would mean 25% of English farmers going out of business because of cuts to direct payments. Now, in Northern Ireland, in all part of the UK but England, much higher level of reliance. So that 25% could be much higher in Northern Ireland if you were just to copy-paste Health and Harmony to Northern Ireland.
Can we